So we are in an old church building. We've been a Jewish presence in the area for over 40 years, and the building has been added on to several times, once during our tenure there. Come on in. So where we have our strongest programming right now is with our TOT programming. JCA TOTS was set up to be a portal into the rest of our school programs, and it was families that really put the push on this. They have a Chavurah that's very strong. We now have built a monthly TOT Shabbat program. We have TOT programming at all our big holidays, and we bring baby baskets to new families. Also, to give you a sense of our different spaces in our sanctuary, this is Anna Sobol. She is our JCA TOTS coordinator, and she was doing a puppet show at Sukkot in our main sanctuary. One of the things that we do is encourage creative, active Judaism, and we have figured out a variety of ways that work for our families. This I Spy Hanukkah train is specifically worthy of pointing out because it was one of our students who really did not fit into the traditional format of our classes, really had a love of trains and wanted to be part of the Hanukkah program that the 7th grade does for the younger kids. So he brought in his train set and he set up an I Spy game with all these Jewishy things in the town that he set up around for Hanukkah. So that was great. We have Teva Torah, our outdoor education program, and Mitzvah Day, which will be in 2 weeks at the JCA, which we do every couple years. I know that you also do a big Mitzvah Day push, and that's been very successful. Our classrooms are small in our basement. We've really maximized what we can do in them. It really dictates some limits as to how large we can comfortably grow, but that should be the worst of our problems, that we outgrow our space. And this is activity in our school. And we're also looking to improve some of our furniture as part of our next couple-year plan. We have a nice courtyard full of concrete, which works well for our sukkah, and this was outdoors for, we have a number of programs that are taken into account the Shalosh Regalim, the three legs, I guess, but when we do our agricultural based things, we do things outside. So here are some of the kids preparing sukkah decorations. We've also started a garden. We have our new youth and family programs coordinator. During Mitzvah Day, she ran a station outside, and she's done a great job of connecting. Each of our grade levels has a Jewish value. That's part of what the students are learning in the school, and she's done a great job of connecting the school values with our summer camp, with our family programs. We also have had a number of our staff recipients of the Harold Grinspoon Excellence in Jewish Education Awards, and many of them continue to serve the community even past years when they're actually teaching or running programs. So we have Rabbi Weiner, we have Rachel Gorin-Watts, who is now a member and bearing TOTS, so she's not doing our teen programming but helping facilitate. Kara is our new youth and programs director. Melissa Zeitz is one of our teachers, but also has a specialty in technology. She's a tech specialist in the Springfield Public Schools and has really helped us begin to build some technology supports for the school and the administration, Ruth LaBear and myself. We've had stable enrollments. We've really been able to weather the bumps over the last number of years. I think we're the largest supplementary school in Northern Pioneer Valley. This is the last 5 years, for example. We see bumps every year around 3rd grade from people's sort of orientation of when they used to start school. Because of the growth in our TOTS programming, we've really been able to channel families in younger, and like the public schools, we have some real dips in a couple of grades, and when we've looked into whether that's particularly an issue with our recruiting, or we've checked with our colleagues in some of the other schools, and we all have certain years where there seems to be dips. I also would welcome, I don't know your time frame, how you want to operate with questions. I'm happy to answer if they come up along the way. So, profile of our school students, because that's technically where we're eligible for the allocations. 16% of JCA members have children in the school. So we have an interesting profile of membership and who our households are. Our households, the kids of the 53 households in the represented by school children, we span quite a wide catchment basin. Just under half of the students come from households that are interfaith. That is not including a household where a parent has converted at some point along the way. Our students themselves attend 30 different schools. So many of them are not in particular clusters in their schools, and that they're often the only Jewish child in their class, sometimes in their school. So some of our role, just by existing, is giving them a touchstone for their Jewish community. And then I just put down the different schools that we're talking about. We don't seem to have much of a group that chooses to participate in Gan Keshet, and I've targeted some of the Jewish schools because I know there's hope that we can mutually support the Jewish schools in the area. And we do have several families with children at Lander Spoon Academy, and we have protocols for when they reach 7th grade, they join our program for the 7th grade year, but they're not required to be in our school. And what's not listed here is we also have a faction of households who choose not to send their kids at all to our programs and who may have a chavurah meeting up in one of the hill towns, but they come to us for a Purim carnival or for high holidays. And then we have a significant portion of the students in our school with special needs. ADD, on the autism spectrum, dyslexic, so the range of things, maybe emotional, behavioral, actual physical needs that can affect, and we have, over the last 10 years, through the help of a variety of grants and supports in the community, tried to open our doors wider. And at the moment, we also offer learning covenants, Brit Limud, so that we can adjust some of the what it works for the best learning style of some of the children in their households. And at the moment, 8 to 12 Brit Limud that we're monitoring in any given semester.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the costs associated with the special needs kids servicing them?
I would say that we're looking at between $2,000 to $2,500 a year. It mostly has to do with the student-teacher ratio and the time of somebody who meets with the individual families and students to monitor their progress. We've been fortunate in working with the UMass Communication Disorders, that's the term of the program that trains folks in special ed. We put out a request several years ago when we saw that we had several kids coming through that needed more than we were used to providing, which was one-on-one. At this point, we've been pretty much been able to mainstream with some teen aides. And one of the parents who teaches at UMass sent out an email blast to a couple professors, and we were surprised at how many students were willing to volunteer to come help because it was getting their hours. So that there's mixed costs associated. There's a certain amount of time and energy that goes into recruiting and supervising the volunteers. So again, I would say between $2,000 and $2,500 if it's just people power, and more if you're incorporating, which we're trying to do, some of these technology, whether it's iPad things, distance learning options where they can log in and do some things independently from home. And we're still assessing ultimately what that cost looks like. And we're also been working with trying to get Wi-Fi down into our schoolrooms because they're concrete bunkers, and at the moment, we can only use Wi-Fi in certain parts of the building. So,
Thank you.
So, the school expenses, my salary as the Director of Lifelong Learning is included in this salary line, though my supervision is a range of what's going on in lifelong learning. Our family education overlaps significantly with the school in terms of programming, though it is allocated differently, and we also receive funding through the Grinspoon Foundation. Teen programming, which there's an interface with the school, and then we have books and supplies. So that's sort of how our expenses roll out. And then if you're looking at the revenue side of things, what you'll see in the difference of expenses and revenue, what is not listed here is, generally speaking, the congregation dues underwrites the school tuition by anywhere between 35 and 50% in a given year over the last 15 years. So when we see where we fall within this, the board may come back to me and say, you know what, dues can only cover X, so you either need to find other ways to fundraise or cut expenses. So that may mean cutting personnel or cutting some of the offerings we do. But meanwhile, school tuition, should be a line right here. School tuition covers about 67% of this 52,000. And then we have some fees. We do some, this is teens, we do some fundraising, and then we have grants.
So I'm sorry, you said that the dues is outside of this?
Correct.
Okay, so this is after the dues coverage, this is how it breaks down.
Well, this is saying we know we have 52,000 brought in by this, and then the other, like about 54,000, is the board negotiating with us saying, or some years, you know, we raise tuition this year because of, we just got a new administrative director. I'm leaving and they're reconfiguring the school. Administratively, we were not raising the tuition at this point, and it is to remain open for discussion later.
What is the tuition?
The tuition for 2 days a week is for the third through sixth grade is about $600, and for the kids who just come Sunday, which is first and second grade, is about $425. And the seventh grade pays a little less because they also have a bar mitzvah fee and other things that they're covering. And then our Shalom Sunday program is like $150 for a member.
Okay.
That's a once-a-month program.
The little ones.
Yeah.
What age?
4 to 6,
4 to 6.
pre-K. Yeah.
When do you find out when you're getting a certain amount from the board so you can actually plan whether you need to cut or not?
Every fall is when we look at the next year's budget. What's a little tricky is the JCA budget year is like 2015, so it spans 2 school years. So that ends up, you know, the good news is I have ongoing support and communication with the board and the treasurer and the financial committee. So, you know, we take stock mid-year and say, how are we doing? Are people paying their tuition? How many people needed scholastic aid? Are we seeing a bump in that? We do have sliding tuition. We got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Joe,
All right, next.
unfortunately, we're running behind, and we really do have to, because we have a huge agenda today.
All right, then we'll finish up our last 3 sides.
Jody, can I ask one quick question? What percentage of your students do you think receive some sort of financial assistance for school? Ballpark.
It's tricky. I would say we have about 2 to 3% that ask directly, and we have another 3 to 10% who indirectly, like don't end up paying and you're just chasing, and some of that has more to do, the treasurer knows more about that. I mean, I am grateful I'm left out of too many details of
Yeah.
that, so I can have the relationship with the families, but I know that there are some issues around that, and we've seen more dramatic, and I would say where it plays out at the JCA is we have a sliding scale for dues. So where people will pay the school tuition, they may slide the scale more for dues. One more, yeah, one more. So, where we feel that JCA is particularly strong is we build these multiple participation entry points to join the community. We have a really strong enhanced staff performance through team building, shared skills, planning, and reflection. And we have education supports and experiences for Jewish families with a range of observance. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna